So we're going to be talking about why is it important to talk about Puerto Rican culture and why is it important to us. And Angso is going to introduce our guest, Alex.
Yeah, so we have today Alejandro Hernandez. He's a therapist, but uh, it's very important to say or to introduce him as a Boricua navigating healing, identity, and what it means to come home to himself. I really love that statement, Alex. So, can you tell us about why you decided to introduce yourself in your social media platforms with this statement?
I think we're always trying to discover who we are. And as a Boricua who moved to the US when I was 14 years old, I've had to navigate this whole thing. Not only who am I as Alejandro, as Alex, as myself in my inner self, but who am I also externally? And life happens. Life brings traumatic events and we heal. And in that process of healing and growing, truly for me has been a journey of who am I within myself, but also who am I in my own culture? Who am I to the world as a Boricua man, as an Afro Boricua man? What does that look like? What does that sound like? Does it sound like this? Does it sound like that? Or it doesn't sound like that at all. So it's been really important for me to truly not only navigate that, but be rooted in the reality of what that looks like and what that means to me, not to anybody else, but to Alex, the kid that was born and raised in a beautiful island, but who came to the US and sort of have lived most of his adult life here in the US. So, yeah.
And Alex, you also have a podcast for men to explore spirituality.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's called Ask Your Guides Men's Edition. It started as a panel on Insight Timer, a meditation app, and we would hang out and we would talk about different things. And in that process, I would notice that on the panel, I was usually the only guy, but there was other men who are also mentors, who are teachers. So we decided to make it a thing. So we have Ask Your Guides Men's Edition, and it's a podcast where teachers and mentors, when we come together and we speak healing and liberation and masculinity from different perspective. And what does that look like? Not only from the hyper masculine sort of culture of, raw meat and raw eggs in the morning, but what does that softness also look like? Not only from the heteronormative aspect of things, for as a queer man, as a bisexual man, as a gay man, as a trans man, what is masculinity? What does healing look like to you? What does growth look like to you? So it's one of my passion projects, and yeah, it came out of the question, like, I know I'm not the only one. Like I'm not the only one here.
Mm-hmm.
What is everyone else doing? So yeah.
And how has been so far the experience with the podcast?
So it's been great. Podcasting has been great. I know we took a long break since last year because I started working. I mainly work with men in my career. I work with men who are or have been incarcerated. And as things shifted politically here in the United States, I got the opportunity to go into certain ICE detention centers, and to teach meditation and yoga and whatnot. So the podcast took a hold to be able to focus on other things. But we have resumed recording episodes. We're in the process of editing 2 episodes right now. So it's been really good, and it's been awesome to hear the feedback of men who have never heard other men talk about not only their growth and how awesome it is to be a man, but also how soft it can be, and how to create those beautiful spaces where men can show up and be vulnerable without being judged. So it's been great. The podcast has been amazing. It's been a really good experience.
This is wonderful. So Alex and I met on Threads. We connected over our disagreement with an influencer
Oh, really?
who was bashing Puerto Rican culture. She had it all wrong. And we became the defenders of the Puerto Rican culture on Threads and beyond. And that's really how we met. But yeah, we became the defenders of the Puerto Rican culture online because we thought it was being misrepresented, misunderstood, per usual. I feel like Puerto Ricans, we do have this thing in the continental U.S. where we, and it's very interesting how as we switch languages, we were just talking in Spanish, and our conversation went in a one way,
Yeah.
and our conversation in English is going
For sure.
in a completely different way. And it's like I feel like we're often being misunderstood, miscast, misrepresented, and then we had this person doing that. And the wonder of social media is that we can now take control of our stories, and we get to tell them ourselves.
Yeah.
We get to reach out to people and say, listen, no, this is who we are.
Yeah.
Yes.
And contest what they say,
Yeah.
right?
In real time, right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. We talk about Puerto Rico, and we talk about the fact that we have been colonized for over 500 years. First with Spain, and then United States.
Woo.
And it's interesting
Terrible.
to see these conversations. Yeah, it's interesting to see these conversations, and it's the perpetuation of the colonization of a culture.
Oof.
Ma'am, sir, you have zero ties and zero roots in a culture you're being extremely loud about. Whatever you read on the book, it's only the story. But the culture is lived, it's carried. So although I appreciate you wanting to talk about us, I'm going to need you to take several seats. I'm going to need you to listen to those of us who have lived, who were born and raised in the island. So yes, there's this interpretation of who we are, and culturally and politically, but there's a reality that it's very much lived. And it doesn't always match, and that's okay. But absolutely, it's important to in real time say, hey, hold on, pause. Let's talk about it. We ended up being blocked everywhere, and that's okay.
We were blocked.
Because we were blocked big time. That person didn't want to have the conversation, and that's okay. But at the same time, yeah, you'll never hear me talk about Chinese culture because I've never lived it. So,
And do you remember what was her thesis regarding Puerto Rican culture, or what?
Her thesis was that
you say it.
Her thesis was that Bad Bunny was not showcasing enough Afro-Puerto Rican interpreters of Bomba y Plena in his show, and therefore he was whitewashing and appropriating his own Puerto Rican culture. And that was like we say in Puerto Rico, rice with beans, un arroz con habichuela. Like this conglomeration of issues that don't really fit in what she was saying. It was like, no, ma'am, we consider ourselves Puerto Ricans. We defend our culture, and we consider Bomba y Plena our roots. The musical roots of every Puerto Rican don't matter how light or how dark their skin is. Once you've been exposed, we have this song that says like the rhythm starts coming up through your feet because you grow up in this constant musical rhythm, and that is something that all Puerto Ricans love and respect. In our schools, we are taught all the time, this is where this come from, and we are this mix now, and this is why we love it, and this is why we celebrate it.
Right.
It was like she was looking into our culture with condescent and
Oh.
like an ethnocentrism, like explaining Puerto Rican culture through the lens of the cultural wars that are
That
lived
we are
in the continental
experiencing
US.
over here. Yeah, got it.
And that's what it's like somebody pinched the collective Puerto Rican spirit, and this woman was not having a good time.
All over the place, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is, it is important. It is important to understand that yes, bomba y plena, they're both rooted in our African ancestry. They were birthed out of enslaved African, but it is also important to understand that it was also birthed in Taino spaces. There's this beautiful mix that happens when we're talking about bomba, when you have two very different people who are enslaved by the colonizer, who don't speak the same language, but have this one thing in common. And they come together in what we call the batey, which is the Taino space. They come together to communicate through music. And then we add elements of our European ancestry. We add the clothing. We add the las faldas. That is the nuance that was missing in that conversation. When someone goes online, someone who has zero roots in the culture and says, bomba is ours. Bomba is only for Black people. Only Black people can do bomba. I'm going to say, as someone who grew up in Loíza, as someone who grew up in the birthplace of bomba, as someone who grew up barefooted, dancing in the batey, I'm going to say, hold on, pause.
Yeah.
There is context missing. Bomba is all of us. Yes, born and birthed out of pain and suffering, out of the pain and the suffering of the African people and the enslaved Tainos. Yes, however, it is spread through our culture. It is the essence. It is the musical essence of who we are as a people. There is not one Puerto Rican that is not going to hear the drum and it's not going to start moving. Something with it. It's ancestral. It's spiritual. So please don't tell me. We're not trying to erase the reality, but don't exclude someone out of the culture that belongs to them too.
Right.
Because there's this one poem I think we all know, "Y tu abuela dónde está?" Where's your grandmother? Which is talking, this Black man or Black person is talking to someone of lighter skin, a white person, saying, yesterday you called me Black and you're trying, you like this and you like that. But at the end of the day, where's your grandma? She's Black too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's this nuance to who we are as a people. And I get it. Listen, I get it. And we talked about it when we spoke in Spanish. We talked about the fact that in Puerto Rico, there is colorism. In Puerto Rico, there is racism. But it doesn't look the same as in the United States. We talked about Jim Crow, the segregation. We don't have that. We have a lot of classism.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we have sort of painted this pretty picture using the excuse of, oh, but we're all mixed. I mean, yes. I mean, okay, fine. Thank you. But the reality is that colorism exists, that racism exists. But when it comes to our culture, when it comes to bomba, to plena, when it comes to our food, alcapurrias, bacalaitos. It's ours. It's all of us. Because Puerto Rico is not, it's not one thing. It's many experiences. Puerto Rico is all of us together. And we talked about the different cities, how each city, even if it's next, Puerto Rico is very small, 35 by 100 miles. But each city has its own lore. It has its own story, and it's rich. Canóvanas is right next to Loíza, but Canóvanas' story, it's rich in Taíno ancestry. Loíza is rich in Afro culture, and they're right next to each other. And that's why it is important. If you've never stepped foot on the island, if you've never been rooted, you've never rooted your feet on the sand, there are things you'll never understand. You'll never, if you were not raised in the island, you'll never understand what it's like to drink almost frozen milk from a bag that you have to stab with a little red straw.
Yeah.
And that's good. So anyways, I know I go on these tangents, but
It's
but
okay.
Yeah.
I remember. I just remembered a story. My grandpa was a sergeant in the army, and he would tell me the stories of a separate, like a segregated South, and how shocking that was for him. How like he's never seen anything like that before, and how Puerto Ricans, no matter if they were light or dark, they would go into the
colored
like
section. Okay.
Yeah, the color section. And that was something that when Puerto Ricans from Puerto Rico started living in the U.S., continental U.S., and then bringing back to the island, they would bring these stories, and almost, at least what I saw from my grandfather, is like almost like it was horrible. It was horrifying. It was something he's never seen before, and something he didn't want to see again. That was one grandfather, and then I had another grandfather who was openly racist. So, and he wasn't rich or anything. He was just a good old Puerto Rican from the inland parts of the island who was, a grumpy old man. So yeah, it is present, but it doesn't manifest in today's life as it does here still in the US. I feel like as a whole, because of colonization, all Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico are under this oppression. We are all under it. Like, and that sort of trauma has a way of getting you together with your neighbor. And, because you're both hunkering down from the hurricane. You're both affected by the lack of electricity or water. So those things in this very small island where you can't really keep driving and go anywhere. You'll keep driving and hit the water. So you feel, when I live there, I feel a little bit of a sense of being trapped, because it's like, we can't really go anywhere. We're here. If something happens, if a tsunami comes, we're all here. We're all in this together. It's a feeling that is in Puerto Rico that I think, as someone who grew up there.
Alex, how has been your experience as a Puerto Rican living in the U.S.?
So, excuse me, I came when I was 14. So I came out of really interesting time in life that I was still trying to figure out who I was. So coming to the US with already an idea, I call it the Disney Channel idea of what the US looks like. I came straight into high school. And so like we didn't have uniforms. Back home we had uniforms.
Right.
And that was the coolest thing for me. Having like being able to wear whatever I wanted for school. I was like, oh, no uniform. Great. And it was really interesting because my instinct was to assimilate. So I came to the US with a thick accent. So, I would talk like this, like, hey, my name is Alejandro. And people would make fun of me, especially other Latinos would make fun of me for my accent in English.
Oh, yeah,
but then
I can
in
relate.
Spanish, they would make fun of me because I I was singing. They would say, "Oh, why are you talking like you're singing?" And I'm like, I don't even have like the stereotypical accent you all think we all talk like. Hello, papi, que la que. I never talked like that, so I don't even talk like that. What? So I had to assimilate, and now as an adult, it's been different. I have my accent. Sometimes it comes more than others, but when I was younger, I try to talk super correct, no accent, trying to assimilate. So it was tough. I had an experience in high school. Um, I went to high school in Texas, and in Texas, they used to give us this test at the end of like state test at the end of each year to see where you were at. And according to that test, you would pass to the next grade or not. And I was in 10th grade, and we had to write an essay, and I wrote my essay. And a few months later, my English teacher calls me and says, "Hey, you're going to have to do that test again in front of a panel of 3 people."
Oh,
And I
wow.
was like, "Oh, okay. Why is that?" "Oh, because you've only been in the United States for a year and a half, and they can't believe that you wrote that.
I'm gonna
So they
get
Really?
want to make sure
mad.
they're going to give."
Wow.
So they're going to give you a new topic. You're going to have the same amount of time, which I believe was maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, to write that essay in front of a panel of 3 people.
Oh my God.
And I didn't understand like what that was. I was like, okay, yeah, fine, cool, I'll do that. So I did it, and they were like, oh yeah, he's able to write. Like that was him. He wrote that.
You did it? You actually had to
Um,
do it?
I did. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I did it
Wow.
again. I did it again. And the thing is, it was the highest graded essay in the entire state
Wow. That's
for a
amazing.
10th grader. But
El boricua siempre rompiéndola.
because I was, but because I was from Puerto Rico, I was this little kid, this little chubby kid that barely spoke good English. There was doubt. There was doubt there.
I can
Ended up graduating when I was 16.
I can
So-
wholeheartedly relate to be underestimated in academic environment, and then surprising because
Yeah,
when because we're Puerto Ricans and we good. Yeah, so I can wholeheartedly agree. So
maybe there's
yeah. yeah, when
so it's been interesting to grow up in a place where we're taught that because we are US citizens, we're taught that we are part of this place, and then come into the United States and be treated that we don't belong here.
I
That's right.
wholeheartedly
It's-
agree. I relate
it's-
so much to that. Yes.
It's a mind fuck. It's a mind fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the constant, I would say, for all of us
That's why
once you move over here.
Yes.
Because essentially you're an American citizen, but then you're other all the time
Yep.
in
Yeah.
every single setting that you go. And it's kind of like difficult to understand at first because again, you're coming from the island with this notion of what the US should be.
This idea.
And
Mhm.
yeah. And then all of a sudden the reality is totally different. So it's hard to understand that at first, and it marks you for life,
That
I
is-
would say.
That is why when people ask me, have you experienced racism? Even though I am white, Hispanic, or light skin, whatever you want to call it, I say yes. Because of these stereotypes, because of this underestimating, all this profiling that happens the minute you say you're Puerto Rican. And it's very interesting to find that experience validated and with other people as well. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's hard to explain, but that's how it's been. So I agree.
It's real. It's a real experience. It's a real experience for a lot of us. because again, a lot of people don't know that we are in Puerto Rico. We're a territory of the United States. We have found that out the past few months. People are like, "Oh, deport them to where? Please take me back. A free flight, please. The flights are expensive. Yeah, send me back." But so it's we you own us, but we're not welcomed, and we are part of you, but we are not one of you.
Right.
And for me, since I came as a young boy, even in the island, that dynamic of depending on which political party wins, that those elections, like the language might change, and I know that doesn't work that way, but as a young child, that also fucks with your mind. Like, what do you mean my official language is going to be English and everything in school
Oh
is going to
yeah.
be English? I can
Yeah.
barely understand math in Spanish. Now I need to do algebra in English? What do you mean? And that's a very cultural thing that Puerto Ricans, being 100% Puerto Rican in the diaspora, don't understand. Because it's a lived experience that in the
Right.
island we do experience that. And I know politically things work differently, but as a child, as a kid, you don't understand. You don't know that. You don't know that there's a process. You don't understand that. All you think it's, oh shit, things are gonna change real quick. And I have to somehow be ready for that change. And that's part of the what colonization does to a
Right.
culture and to a people.
And typically you're not ready to confront that situation when you're like moving from the island to here. It's just,
It's a shock.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and as we talk about all these things, we realize that this is why it's important to talk about what it is Puerto Rican, for real, and who we really are, and not let other people throw their ideas upon us and tell us who we are. We get to say who we are. And I love that we're now in social media time where we can just easily spread these things around and let them exist and be out there, that we can take pretty much control of the stories that we want to tell. I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Alex, for
Absolutely.
you,
100%.
why it is important to talk about Puerto Rican culture?
So as from the perspective of someone who was born and raised in the island and pretty much grew up as an adult in the United States, it's like Melissa said, it's important because again, culture is not only it's not only history, it's not only ancestry, it's lived experience. And we know our culture. We know what it's like to live in this Puerto Rican body in a Puerto Rican land and in a American in the United States. We know what that's like. We know what it's like to try. Some of us try, some of us don't. Some of us know how to do it. To cook arroz con gandules, what that sazon means. To make alcapurrias at home. To make pasteles during the holidays. Understanding that comes from the ancestry, that comes from pain, that comes from beautiful roots. So it is important to, as Puerto Ricans, as Boricuas, it is important for us to talk about it because we live it every single day. We wake up Puerto Ricanos every single day. And those outsiders who want to join the conversation, absolutely, you're more than welcome to come sit and listen.
Right. 100%
So
agree.
So yeah.
Well said.
Do so.
Come and listen to us. We will tell
Absolutely.
you who we are.
And we'll show you. We'll show you. We'll feed you. We'll love you regardless, because that is part of Puerto Rican culture. We'll welcome you to the table. you'll sit as an equal to us as you listen to the stories of our ancestors, of our grandparents, because that is who we are as a people. We're not trying to exclude people. We're welcoming you, but also we're here not to gatekeep, but to protect who we are and where we come from, because it's taken us a long time, and it's taken a lot of sweat, blood, and tears to be who we are today.
Yes. And with that thought, I will say thank you to Alex for being with us today and opening your heart and letting us into the Puerto Rican culture.
Thank you so much, Alex, for your perspective.
Thank you.